as we look forward to today's game between the University of Georgia and Missouri. That game will be coming up in about 30 minutes or so. We thought we would pop in here and give you the opportunity to give us your thoughts as Georgia takes on Missouri. It's a huge game. Boy, this is a big game for Georgia and for Missouri. Georgia comes into this game 8-0 on the season, and all of a sudden, Georgia, undefeated Georgia, two-time national champions. Georgia rolling through this season so far. All of a sudden, Georgia is no longer ranked the number one team in the country, at least according to the college football playoff rankings. Georgia now number two. And by the way, the number one team in the country has its hands full today. We have it on the monitor here. Has its hands full today with Rutgers. But Ohio State is leading in that game and checking the latest score. And I'm sure some of you guys may be watching this game. Ohio State 28, Rutgers 16. They're in the fourth quarter with about 12 minutes left to go. And we have that game on our monitor here. And so all of a sudden, Ohio State is the number one team in the country. As far as the college football playoff rankings are concerned, Georgia's still number one in the AP poll, and in almost every other poll that you have, Georgia is number one. But when the college football playoff rankings came out this week, according to the committee, Georgia is not the number one team in the country. They're number two. And so Georgia 8-0 taking on Missouri. Missouri is 7-1 so far this season. Missouri is the number 12th ranked team in the country. And make no bones about it, Missouri is a very good football team. So Georgia versus Missouri today at 3:30. Of course, the game will be on CBS. It will be one of the feature games on CBS. Tonight, CBS will have the Alabama and LSU game. So the Georgia-Missouri game at 3:30 on CBS. And we're getting kind of conflicting, information about who will be calling the game for CBS. What we understand is Rick Waltz and Aaron Taylor will be calling the game for CBS. Now, one of the things we do is we kind of sync the radio call of from the Georgia radio booth with what's happening on the television screen, which is kind of cool to hear the Georgia announcers from the radio call with the TV, what you see on television. But the game will be at 3:30, and we believe it's Rich Waltz and Aaron Taylor doing the call of the game. Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson, I think, will be on the call tonight between Alabama and LSU. So what do you think about this game as you step in here and join us as we look forward to this game? For me, I think the disrespect for Georgia just continues for some reason. There are some across the country who just really, it seems as if they have a bias against Georgia. In fact, there's some across the country who in their minds would just as soon take the two national championships away from Georgia for some reason. They say, well, Alabama would had won that game if their receivers hadn't been hurt against Georgia in the first national championship game that Georgia won. And then, of course, last year, if the Marvin Harrison Jr. hadn't been hurt in the semifinal playoff game, Ohio State would have won that game. And now I think hey, Jacob and Janice, good to have you guys join in here with us. I think, for some reason, there seems to be, at least from my perspective, a level of disrespect for the Georgia football program. And it has been, I think, true in the past, and it continues to be. So Georgia opens the college football playoffs rankings as the number two team in the country. And, the committee gave its perspective on the strength of schedule and that kind of thing. But hey, until you beat the number one team from the last 2 years, I think you should be number one. Now we're watching the Ohio State Rutgers game on our monitor, and Rutgers with the football, and Rutgers is driving. So Rutgers at home against Ohio State, giving Ohio State everything Ohio State wants in this game. Georgia comes into the game with Missouri, a 15.5 point favorite over the Missouri Tigers. One of the things we kind of bounce back and forth between ESPN Game Day and the Fox Network and their pregame shows, and we kind of bounce back and forth from watching them in anticipation of the college football games of the day. The College Game Day picks, the guys from Game Day, picking between Georgia and Missouri. Desmond Howard said Georgia will win this game in a close one. Pat McAfee says the Bulldogs will win big today over Missouri. Kirk Herbstreit says that he thinks Georgia is going to win big over Missouri as well. Nate Bargatze, a wonderful comedian, just really a funny dude. He picked Georgia as well. Lee Corso says that Georgia is going to get beat by Missouri in Athens. So Corso is picking Missouri to win the game today. Of course, it's just fun to watch those guys and listen to their commentary. It really doesn't matter what they say. Obviously, it's what happens on the field. Now, we're picking Georgia to win this game, and our projected score is 34-17. And the reason why I picked Georgia to win 34-17, because every time I pick Georgia to win by that margin, Georgia wins. Now, they never win by that margin. But if I pick Georgia to win 34-17, they usually come through with a victory. They have been coming through with a victory. So I'm picking Georgia. It's not a very scientific thing, but I'm picking Georgia to win this game over Missouri 34-17. Checking the Rutgers and Ohio State. Ohio State anointing the number one team in the country by the college football playoff committee. Rutgers is driving on Ohio State, so we're keeping our eye on that, and you might be watching that game as well. And there goes Rutgers inside the 10-yard line down to about the 7-yard line. So Rutgers. Hey, Gary, how you doing? From Ellijay, beautiful Ellijay. Yeah, I bet the leaves are beautiful up in that part of the state of Georgia right now. Yeah, and by the way, it's a beautiful day in South Georgia, and it's a beautiful day in Athens as well. Almost perfect for football, about 65 degrees. Beautiful blue skies in Athens. Jacob says Georgia wins 42-21. Gary says, yeah, the leaves are beautiful. I understand. But hey, Jacob, I like your score. My gut impression is that Georgia is going to win this game. Missouri comes in. They're a strong team. They have a very good offense, veteran quarterback, good receivers, and a pretty good running game. Defensively, I don't know if Missouri is going to be able to handle Georgia. Georgia, Carson Beck has just played great. I mean, he has just played great, and statistically, he ranks as one of the best quarterbacks in the country if you just average out all these statistics. So Carson Beck is playing very well. I just anticipate Georgia doing very well in this game today. Hey, Jim, how you doing from Thomasville? Beautiful Thomasville, Georgia. By the way, Thomas County Central is a very good high school football team. Thomasville High, for you guys who may not be familiar with Georgia high school football, which we love and which is very strong. The Thomasville Bulldogs have a good program. They're kind of rebuilding this year, but that Thomas County Central football team down in Thomasville, man, boy, they are strong. They took out a very strong Lee County team, but that's in high school football. But, we're kind of interested in that as well. Now, Rutgers has driven to the Ohio State, looks like the 6-yard line. And let's see what happens. Going for the touchdown, corner end zone. Let's see what happens. Is a touchdown? No, not quite for Rutgers. Okay. So go get them, Rutgers. We need to put Ohio State in their place. Man, that was close. The injury report for the Bulldogs today, obviously, Brock Bowers is out for the season. Well, not necessarily out for the season. In fact, I saw Brock Bowers doing some jogging last week, jogging onto the field. But he's going to be out for the foreseeable future with the surgery that he had. But if Georgia, makes it to the championship game, the SEC championship game, and then if Georgia makes it to the college football playoffs, I'm pretty sure you're going to see Brock Bowers back on the field for this season. Now, if Georgia doesn't make the playoffs, goes to a bowl game, you may not see Brock Bowers back on the field for the Bulldogs. We'll just have to wait and see. Hey, Ty, how you doing? Go Dogs, indeed. Xavier Truss started and played against Florida. He's been dealing with an ankle injury. He might be playing today. From Chicago, hey, what's going on? Jim, how you doing, my man? Um, yeah, we love to have you guys with us up in the Windy City. Let's see what they're doing with Ohio State. Fourth down. Yeah, it's fourth down for Rutgers. So what are they got? They got to go for it. Got to go for the touchdown, right? So man, that game's pretty tight. Rutgers playing very well and gave up a weird touchdown at the beginning of the second half. So let's what is this? Is this fourth down? Yeah, it's fourth down, and Rutgers is trying for the touchdown here, and let's see what happens. Back to pass, drops the ball, and that's pretty well going to do it. Hey, Stephen from Minnesota, how you doing? A little coolish, I would imagine, in Minnesota. Let's see, Amarius Mims. We might play today. Ankle injury. We might see him. Tyron Ingram Dawkins. Let's see. He probably will be playing today. Everybody, Ladd McConkey will be back on the field for Georgia. Jacob says Georgia needs to start off and play well. If Georgia plays the Kentucky game and the Florida game from last week, I think Georgia has obviously a very good chance of winning this game. Georgia, a 2-touchdown favorite. Missouri, you don't want to discount them. A very good football team. And you might remember last year, Georgia beat Missouri last year 26-22, and we sweated out that game because Georgia was like 13 points down going into the fourth quarter, and Georgia was able to come back and win, which really set up Georgia then for its run to get the SEC championship game. Oscar Depp is going to have a great game. He's due. And Brock Bowers, of course, obviously not playing today. Oscar playing very well. And it looks like, we'll check some of the scores in a minute. But Oscar Depp is he's a very good football player. And he was almost, Brock Bowers-like with that one-handed catch. Let's catch some of the scores, kind of refresh our feed here. Ohio State, there's about 8 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. Ohio State, 28-16 over Rutgers. Texas A&M has come back to regain the lead over Ole Miss, 34-31. That's in Oxford. Kind of interesting there. Ole Miss was leading that game pretty decisively for a while. Clemson's leading Notre Dame 31-23. That game's in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, and Tennessee with no problem with UConn. Florida and Arkansas tied 23 apiece in the fourth quarter. Indiana leading over Wisconsin. Texas with a 3-point lead over Kansas State. North Carolina winning over Campbell College today pretty handily. Georgia Tech with a lead over Virginia 10-7. Let's see. Anything else? South Carolina and Jacksonville State tied. Wow. In the fourth quarter. So that's some of the scores. Now for in the college football rankings. Hey Roy, how you doing, my man? College football rankings. Here in the college football playoff rankings, Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, the first top four, followed by Washington. Then you have those are the undefeated teams, by the way. Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, all undefeated, followed by Oregon, Texas, Alabama. Alabama with a big game today with LSU, of course. Oklahoma and Ole Miss. All of those teams are one-loss teams. In the AP rankings, Georgia's number one, Michigan, Ohio State, and Florida State, followed by Washington, Oregon, Texas, Alabama. Penn State is in the top 10 in the AP poll, followed by Oklahoma. So it's Texas A&M at Ole Miss today. In the SEC, UConn at Tennessee, Arkansas and Florida are currently playing. South Carolina, Jacksonville State. The 3:30 games are 3:30 game, Georgia and Missouri. And then you have Auburn at Vanderbilt, Kentucky at Mississippi State, and then a big one tonight in Tuscaloosa. You have LSU and Alabama playing. But of course, all eyes for us today are on Athens and the University of Georgia, the Bulldogs coming in again, the number 2 team in the country now, with in the college football playoffs with Ohio State up there at number 1. Just to refresh that score, and you guys may be watching this game. It's still 28-16 with about 7 minutes left to go in the ball game for Ohio State and Rutgers. So it probably looks like, unless things really change, that Ohio State may go on to win that game today. Let's see, Notre Dame at Clemson. We've talked about that one. So what do you think? Our score for this game is Georgia 34-17 over Missouri today. Missouri, a very good football team, good offensively, pretty good, decent defensively. If Georgia comes out with a Florida-like, Kentucky-like game performance, then I think Georgia's, going to do very well against the Missouri Tigers. Now, with Georgia playing Missouri today, next week you have Georgia against Ole Miss, and it looks like Ole Miss is currently behind late in the fourth quarter with Texas A&M, 35-31. That's late in the fourth quarter. So if that score holds, then Ole Miss will come to Athens a 2-loss team. And Gary has Georgia winning 38-17 over Missouri. So if that score holds, you'll have Ole Miss coming to Athens next week, and I understand game day will be in Athens next week, the ESPN game day, and that's always kind of a big deal on campus, when you have those guys show up. And but after that, after today, then Ole Miss, and then you have that game in Tennessee. So Georgia is running its gauntlet right now. Georgia has a tough stretch here. They got over the first hurdle of this kind of tough stretch with a win over Florida last week. A big win for Georgia, dominating the Gators for most of the game. And so here we go. We turn the page, and we got Missouri coming in. Then you have Ole Miss coming in, and then Georgia will go up to Knoxville. And we're looking, for Georgia to be undefeated when they go to Knoxville. And man, that's going to be a slobber knocker of a game. And that's a term we use, a term of endearment that we use in South Georgia to describe a really tough and physical game. But we're not going to count our chickens before they hatch. It's a big game today, Georgia and Missouri. And so we've got some predictions. Gary says 38-17. Minnesota, how you doing, Stephen, in Minnesota? Temperature up there might be a tad cooler than it is down here in the South. It's a beautiful day where our studios are located today. Just an absolutely gorgeous day. Kevin has Georgia winning 45-17. Jacob has Georgia winning 42-21. Anybody else with a prediction? One of these days we'll have kind of like a contest. Who can get closest to the correct score. And maybe we'll give away something. Now, that'd be kind of cool. And we'll try to work that out. Well, I'm going to get out of here and get ready for this big game. Watch the end of the Ohio State game and get ready for Georgia and Missouri. Now, we'll be back at halftime, and we would appreciate it if you'll dip in here with us at halftime just to get your comments on the first half of the game. And then, of course, we'll be here with you at the end of the game, hopefully with good news that Georgia continues that winning streak. Georgia with a winning streak now of 25 straight games. Amazing. Georgia in its last 40, I want to get this right. It seems like it's what? The last 45 games. Georgia is 44-1. Amazing. It's something like that. It's an amazing streak. 25 of the 25 straight games that Georgia has won now. They're going for number 26 today against Missouri. So we'll be back in here at halftime, and we'll get your comments, and we'll do an evaluation of the first half. And then, of course, at the end of the game, we'll wrap things up, hopefully, with a big win for Georgia over Missouri. So, hey, let's go get our, our Mountain Dew and our honey bun and settle in, or popcorn or whatever the case may be, settle in and enjoy this first half. Georgia and Missouri. We'll be back with you at halftime. Until then, go Dogs.